25 players. But now, after today, after Thursday and Friday, the actual postseason will begin. I obviously don't have a show till Monday. So I wanted to reveal the top 5 players for me that are under the most pressure entering into these playoffs, because there are a lot of different directions you can go. And I think that there are a lot of players that need this postseason to either rectify or enhance their legacy and kind of clean off and wash off some misconceptions about different players. So, to me, at number 5, it's Kevin Durant. Now, listen, Kevin Durant is a fantastic player. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal player. No one's going to question Kevin Durant as far as his ability to come through in the postseason. He's proven to be clutch. He's a proven champion. Kevin Durant is all basketball, and we know that. But the reality is, he left the dynasty in Golden State to go to Brooklyn. You left Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to go join Kyrie Irving. James Harden obviously joined you midway through the season. That wasn't initially the plan. Now, I'm not saying that preferring Kyrie Irving is necessarily at this moment in time a bad or poor decision as opposed to staying with Steph and Klay. Only time will tell. But by doing that, Kevin Durant clearly is acknowledging something that we've always known, which is he clearly hasn't felt validated enough in Golden State, in Oklahoma City, where he is the sole reason why a team wins an NBA championship. He is seeking that validation that he is the true leader of a championship team. In OKC, first of all, they didn't win a championship. They did reach the NBA Finals, but he came up a little bit short, and you could argue that both he and Russell Westbrook were the co-captains of that team. Some people believe Russell Westbrook was the bigger captain of the team, right? In Golden State, yes, he may have been the best player, but it was Steph Curry's team. It was Steph Curry's team. Draymond Green was the heart and soul of the team. Kevin Durant was just the best ancillary piece you could have. He was the most talented player on that Golden State Warriors team. But now you're in Brooklyn, and people are kind of saying the same thing. People are believing that James Harden might be the catalyst behind this team's success. Now, I still believe that he is, Kevin Durant, the best player and the most important player for the Nets this postseason, but he's got to prove it. He needs to win. And until he wins in Brooklyn, where he is the unequivocal, unquestioned leader and sole reason behind this team winning a championship, we can't say that about him. We can't claim that about him. And again, the only reason I have him at number 5 is because he is coming off a ruptured Achilles from a season ago. Yes, he's had ample time to recover, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and we'll have to lower expectations to a certain degree. At number 4, though, it's Kawhi Leonard. Listen, Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, he's got a tremendous amount of pressure coming into this postseason. This is a guy who's trying to rectify an atrocious Game 7 performance against the Denver Nuggets. 14 points, 6 of 22 from the floor. He was absolutely abysmal in this game, and he averaged for the series against the Denver Nuggets in the fourth quarter 5 points. 5 points on 27% shooting from the floor, 33% shooting from the three-point line, well below his season averages. And yes, he's an amazing player. He's a 2-time Finals MVP. You can't take that away from him. But Kawhi Leonard hasn't proven yet that he can lead a team with expectations to a championship, with him being the sole reason behind the expectations. When he was with the Spurs, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, it was their team, Popovich. He wasn't asked to carry the franchise. In Toronto, yes, he was the best player, but it was Kyle Lowry's team. The expectations weren't that the Toronto Raptors were going to win an NBA title. The Bucks were favored to come out. The whole year, the Raptors were just flying under the radar. So this is the first time that he has a team where the expectations of a championship are solely because of him and his skill. That's the only reason. Kawhi Leonard has to be the reason why the Clippers win, and we saw what they did last season. And again, yes, he played well for the majority of the postseason, but when they needed him most, he came up small. He came up small for him. So again, he's proven to be clutch in the postseason, but he hasn't proven yet that with expectations, he can lead you to a championship. So he's at number 4. At number 3, another member of the Brooklyn Nets, James Harden. Listen, I love James Harden. I think he's a great leader. He's an underrated leader. I think he's an unselfish basketball player. The way that he distributes the basketball, gets his guys, his teammates involved, shouldn't be ignored, shouldn't be, and needs to be underscored. But what's been the knock on James Harden? It's not that he hasn't been productive in the postseason. It's not that James Harden doesn't necessarily play well in the postseason. He doesn't play up to the level that we're accustomed to seeing him play in the regular season. That's the biggest thing with James Harden. With James Harden, it's his production, his efficiency, the field goal percentage, the three-point percentage, all of that drops precipitously in the postseason. Again, it's not that we're expecting him to necessarily win every time. I don't think that, and I'm not going to fault James Harden for losing with the Rockets and coming up short of an NBA Finals. He faced the Golden State Warriors 4 times in that 5-year stretch in which they were beating everyone. I'm not going to fault him for that. I'm not going to fault him necessarily for losing Game 7 in the 2017 playoffs. But what I am going to fault him for is going 2 for 11 in that game, right? That's what I am going to fault him for. You can't shoot 2 for 13 rather in the 2018 game from 3-point line. 2 for 13 from the 3-point line in Game 7, the game that you need to have the most without Chris Paul. In the postseason prior to that, in 2017, Game 6 against the Spurs at home, he scores just 10 points. He was terrible. 2 for 11 from the floor, 2 for 9 from the 3-point line. You lose by 39 points at home to the San Antonio Spurs without Kawhi Leonard. That's inexcusable. So again, it's not that he is losing games. We understand that. I'm not going to fault him for that. It is, how do you perform in losing efforts? Are you putting up stinkers, or are you putting up heroic performances where you just came up short? Are you putting up Jerry West types of performances where, yes, you lost in the NBA Finals 8 times, but you won an NBA Finals MVP on a losing side for averaging 42 points per game? Are you going out like that? James Harden hasn't been able to do that yet. And he was the one that demanded a trade out of Houston to join the super team in Brooklyn. This is the team you wanted. This is the team you wanted. So now it's time to deliver. Now it's time to deliver if you're James Harden. And at number 2, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. And specifically, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Listen, a lot of similar reasons to James Harden. For Giannis, I love Giannis. He's a back-to-back MVP. People don't question Giannis because he just loses games in Milwaukee. They question him and they criticize him because his production and his efficiency has dropped in the postseason. This is a Milwaukee Bucks team that has had high expectations for the last 2 seasons. They were the number 1 seed back-to-back years. They obviously blew a 2-0 lead against the Toronto Raptors in the 2019 playoffs. They lost 4 straight to Kawhi Leonard as the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. Last year, we remember, against the Miami Heat, they got blown out in 5 games. They were already trailing 3-0 with Giannis before he kind of tweaked his ankle. And in that series last year, Giannis averaged 30 points per game in the regular season, 63% shooting from the free throw line. Against the Miami Heat, he averaged 22 points per game, barely, 53% shooting from the free throw line. He's got to be better. He's got to be better than that. And so again, if the Bucks lose to the Brooklyn Nets in the second round, which right now they're projected to match up in that game, that's okay. People aren't going to fault Giannis for that. but you can't come up short on your end. You can't not deliver on your end to help your team win. So, again, they've kind of melted the last two postseasons. We need Giannis in particular individually to play really well. Again, whether the Bucks can beat the Nets, I'm not sure. He's got to be at least the biggest reason why they've got a shot. And he can't be an impediment or can't hamper his team's ability to win. And at number one, it's Paul George. Listen, Paul George is appearing to be a nice guy, but the monstrosity of a postseason that he had last year, and I hate to say that and use that word, that superlative about Paul George, but damn, man, last year was terrible in the postseason. And Paul George, again, like his counterpart in Kawhi Leonard, trying to rectify not only the Game 7 performance in which he scored 10 points, 4 of 16 shooting from 3, 0 of 6 from the three-point line, but this is a guy who, even in the series against the Dallas Mavericks, averaged 18.5 points per game, and his efficiency was terrible. 80, so, Paul George, again, last year, the big thing was, apologies, I got some snuffles today, is last year in the postseason, 40% from the floor, 33% from the three-point line. This is a guy who shot over 41% from the three-point line in the regular season and nearly 50% from the floor in the regular season. And so now you come around to this postseason, and there's tremendous pressure on Paul George because Kawhi Leonard could potentially leave this season, at the end of this season. He is eligible to be a free agent. So if he's eligible to be a free agent, why would he potentially leave the Clippers if he doesn't feel like you are good enough on your end to help him win a championship, to help him get to where he wants to? If you're the sole reason, if you're the biggest impediment to Kawhi Leonard, he's going to walk away in free agency. I know he has strongly indicated that he's going to stay with the Clippers, but this might be a reality check for Kawhi that, hey, I can't do it with this guy. I can't do it with this guy. Now, maybe it might result in Paul George being traded, although with his massive contract that the Clippers signed him to, I'm not sure how many suitors there will be for him. Paul George, again, needs to play better. We obviously saw Game 6 a couple years ago in 2018 against the Utah Jazz. Russell Westbrook drops 43 points, or 46 points, rather. Paul George drops 5 points in that game. He was terrible. 2 for 16 from the floor, 0 for 6 from 3 in 45 minutes. You lose by 5 points, and Russ drops 46. 20, then against LeBron and the Cavs, like in 2016, Game 4, he drops 15 points. In Game 4, when they got swept, 5 of 21 from the floor. So Paul George, to me, has got to play better in this game and in this postseason. And he, to me, is the guy under the most pressure entering this postseason.